The sun was just creeping over the hills, painting the sky in soft pinks and oranges, when I sat down on my porch with a steaming mug of coffee. It was a ritual I'd cherished for 20 years, watching the world wake up from the front steps of my family's ranch in Willow Creek, Montana. This wasn't just any piece of land, it was 47 acres of history, carved out by my great-great-grandfather, Amos Harper, back in 1868. He'd felled trees with nothing but an axe and grit, building a cabin that still stood proud, weathered but unyielding, through blizzards and droughts. 5 generations of Harpers had poured their hearts into this soil, and every sunrise reminded me I was just a steward of something bigger than myself. My name's Daniel Harper, and this is the story of how one woman's greed turned my quiet retirement into a fight for everything I held dear, and how her biggest mistake handed me a victory sweeter than I could have imagined. 10 years ago, the land around our ranch was nothing but open fields, dotted with wildflowers and grazing deer. Then developers rolled in, planting a shiny new neighborhood called Silver Pines right on our doorstep. 30 homes, each one priced between $500,000 and $800,000, with manicured lawns and strict rules about everything from fence heights to mailbox colors. At first, I didn't mind. New neighbors brought life to the area, families with kids who'd wave as they biked by, retirees who'd stop to chat about the weather. It felt like a community. But that all changed when Cassandra Vaughn moved into the biggest house on the block, a sprawling modern mansion that screamed money. Everything shifted overnight. Cassandra was a real estate mogul with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and a sleek silver SUV that probably cost more than my barn. She dressed like she was always one step away from closing a $1 million deal, her heels clicking with purpose on the pavement. To her, my ranch with its 1860s farmhouse and century-old barn was an eyesore, a stubborn relic that didn't fit her vision of a polished, upscale Silver Pines. She got herself elected president of the Homeowners Association in the fall of 2023, and that's when my peaceful days started unraveling. It began with little digs, comments she'd toss out when we crossed paths in town. "Daniel, have you thought about downsizing? A nice condo might be easier at your age," she'd say, her voice dripping with fake concern. I was 72, not exactly frail, and I'd been maintaining this ranch just fine. My land was paid off, taxes up to date, and I wasn't hurting anyone. But Cassandra kept pushing, hinting at community standards and property values. I brushed it off until one chilly morning in March 2024, when she marched up my gravel driveway, clipboard in hand, looking like she meant business. "Daniel," she said, her tone all corporate charm, "I represent some investors who'd love to buy your ranch. They're offering $900,000, cash, with a 10-day close. No inspections, no hassle. You could be settled in a retirement villa by next month." I told her, polite but firm, that the ranch wasn't for sale, not for $900,000, not for any price. That's when her mask slipped. Her smile vanished, and her eyes turned cold as a winter storm. "You don't get it, Daniel," she said, voice sharp. "This isn't just about you. It's about what's best for everyone." I'd been around long enough to know a threat when I heard one, and my gut told me Cassandra Vaughn was trouble. She came back 3 times that week, each offer higher than the last $1 million, then $1.2 million. By her final visit, her hands were trembling, and she kept glancing at her phone like she was waiting for the world to end. "Why the rush, Cassandra?" I asked, and she froze, stammering about market timing and investment windows. But I saw the panic in her eyes. This wasn't about profit. She was desperate, and my ranch was her lifeline. I called my old friend, Ethan Caldwell, a plumber who'd been fixing pipes in Willow Creek for decades. Ethan knew everyone and everything in this town. If Cassandra was up to something, he'd sniff it out. That night, he showed up at my kitchen table, his face grim. "Daniel, you're not gonna like this," he said, glancing over his shoulder like someone might be eavesdropping. What he told me made my blood run cold. Cassandra wasn't just chasing a deal, she signed a contract with Golden Horizon Ventures, a shell company for overseas investors planning a massive luxury resort. My ranch was the centerpiece of their 500-acre project. Without it, the whole thing collapsed. She'd taken a $3 million deposit to deliver my deed by May 1st, 2024, and if she failed, she'd owe it all back plus penalties. Her house, her savings, her kids' future, everything was on the line. Desperate people do reckless things, and Cassandra was no exception. A few days later, I woke up to official-looking notices plastered on my door. My well was contaminated, my wiring unsafe, my septic system a public health risk. Each violation came with a $75,000 repair bill and a 30-day deadline. I'd been a contractor for 40 years. I knew these were bogus. My systems were fine, inspected just months earlier. But the notices were signed by a county official, a guy Ethan later confirmed was Cassandra's buddy from the local country club. She'd weaponized the system against me. I didn't panic. Instead, I started documenting everything: photos, paperwork, timestamps. Ethan helped me dig into the inspector's ties to Cassandra, uncovering a web of favors, dinners, and backroom deals. She wasn't just connected, she knew how to pull strings. Her next move was bolder. She showed up with a solution: sell for $1 million, and she'd make the violations disappear. Think of it as a full-service package, Daniel, she said, her smile like ice. I called it what it was: extortion. That's when I knew she'd crossed into dangerous territory. Cassandra underestimated me. I'd lived in Willow Creek my whole life, and I had friends she'd never heard of: contractors, farmers, old-timers who'd seen her kind come and go. While she leaned on her cronies, I leaned on mine. Ethan installed discreet cameras around my property, recording every visit, every threat. We learned her resort deadline was April 30th, 2024, and every day I held out made her more frantic. Her harassment ramped up. Power was cut off for safety violations. Anonymous complaints flooded the county, and neighbors started whispering about my failing health. It was a campaign to break me, but it only made me sharper. The breaking point came when Cassandra made her final offer, $1.3 million, with 48 hours to sign. I refused, calm but resolute. That's when she snapped. "There's no other way, Daniel," she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. Ethan, listening through the cameras, later told me why she was so unhinged. If she didn't deliver my deed, her contract's penalty clause would ruin her not just financially, but with fraud charges that could land her in prison. Her kids' college funds, her mansion, everything was at stake. The next day, April 10th, 2024, she showed up unannounced, clutching a leather folder. Gone was the polished realtor. She looked like a woman on the edge. "Daniel, these papers will fix everything," she said, shoving a document at me. It was a county notice claiming eminent domain for a public highway through my ranch, offering $700,000. The seals looked real, but the timing reeked of fraud. I played along, asking to review it, watching her fidget as I stalled. Her answers to my questions about officials, timelines were vague, contradictory. "Cassandra," I said, setting the papers down, "these are fake." Her face went white. She stammered, insisting it was all legal, but when I asked her to call the county to verify, she crumbled. Then she did something I'll never forget. Her hand dove into her purse, and out came a small revolver, pointed straight at me. "Sign the deed, or you'll regret it forever," she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "My kids will lose everything if you don't." At 72, I'd seen enough to know she was serious. Her finger was on the trigger, her eyes wild. But I stayed calm, speaking softly, like soothing a cornered animal. "Cassandra, this won't fix anything. Those papers won't hold up." She didn't hear me. She was too far gone, screaming about her family's future. What she didn't know was that Ethan was in his truck outside, monitoring the cameras. He'd called the sheriff the moment she pulled the gun. As sirens wailed in the distance, Cassandra froze, the reality of her actions crashing down. She lowered the revolver, sobbing. "I can't go to prison. My kids will hate me." The deputies arrived, cuffed her, and read her rights as she repeated, "I was just trying to save my family." As they drove her away, Ethan clapped me on the shoulder with a grin. "Daniel, this is about to get good." He was right. Cassandra's arrest triggered a chain reaction. Her contract with Golden Horizon was voided, leaving her liable for the $3 million deposit plus penalties. Her bail was set at $150,000, which her family barely covered by mortgaging their home. The scandal tanked Silver Pine's property values, spooking homeowners into selling cheap. I saw my chance. With my ranch's equity and a loan from a trusted banker, I bought 3 houses in Silver Pines within a week at fair prices, not vulture bids. One was across from Cassandra's mansion, giving me a front-row seat to her unraveling. The neighborhood was in chaos, and residents turned to me for stability. I ran for HOA president in an emergency election, promising to restore trust and fairness. With my reputation and new property stakes, I won easily. 2 months after Cassandra's gun stunt, I was sworn in at the community center, her empty mansion looming outside. Then her house hit foreclosure. At the auction, I bid $400,000 well below its original price, but fair for the market and won. Moving into her former home, watching my ranch glow in the distance, felt like justice served on a silver platter. Cassandra's life kept spiraling. She took a minimum wage job at a strip mall store, traded her SUV for a bus pass, and moved into a cramped apartment ironically, within Silver Pine's boundaries. As HOA president, I discovered her rental violated our bylaws. The complex wasn't registered, and her felony conviction flagged her as a community safety risk. I spent weeks ensuring the paperwork was airtight, then delivered her eviction notice myself on a crisp October morning in 2024. When she opened the door, her face fell. "Daniel, you can't do this," she whispered, but her rules said otherwise. She had 30 days to leave. Her appeal was futile. My documentation was bulletproof, and the board where I now owned 11 of 30 properties voted unanimously to uphold the eviction. Residents praised the new Silver Pines: transparent finances, fair rules, thriving community spirit. Property values climbed 25%, and families clamored to move in. Cassandra's old mansion became our community center, her office now a kids' reading room, her kitchen hosting potlucks. Meanwhile, she scraped by, her kids distant, her dreams in tatters. The final twist came a year later, in October 2025. Golden Horizon called, offering $4 million for my ranch. I laughed, told them it'd stay Harperland for another century, and hung up. Sitting on my porch, Cassandra's old porch, I sipped my coffee, watching kids play in a neighborhood I'd rebuilt. Her greed had handed me an empire, and my ranch was safe forever, locked in a family trust. But here's where it gets messy. Was Cassandra a villain, or a mom pushed to the brink? Did I go too far, evicting her when she was already broken? Could I have shown mercy without risking the community? Drop a comment. Where are you reading from, and what do you think? Was this justice or revenge? Should I have let her stay, or was her exile the only way to protect Silver Pines? Hit that like button if you're Team Harper, and subscribe for more stories where greed gets schooled. What would you have done?